Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your media outreach, Louisa, and I'm here today with the ambassador of the Red Dragon family. Welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, and welcome also everyone. And today we have a new guest here, Karen, and also again an old, family member of GoldFish Report, Bo. And so we're going to have an interesting program. Just for information for ones that is wondering where has the ambassador been. The ambassador has been traveling around Europe and other places like a gypsy, and been spending around in different meetings and so on. And now I'm back for a short while, but again, going to be on a journey and doing work. So during the time I'm traveling, working, I try to avoid as much as possible to talk and be engaged in the programs of security reasons. But now I'm here with all of us, and I think it's going to be an interesting program with Bo and Karen. And basically also I wanted to say that watching what's going on in the world, I will do an update maybe before I'm traveling again about the world situation. We're going to go deeper into that, but just for everyone's information, I've been, like I stated, I've been traveling for the last 3 weeks and been staying at hotels all the time and going from country to country. And now it's late and I've been traveling from one country to another today, so I'm a little bit exhausted. So I will just do the introduction, and then I will leave it up to the distinguished guests, and then I will return in probably before Monday with another more update about what's going on around the world and help everyone out. Okay. And with that, I'll leave it up to the guests, and I really want to welcome everyone, and may God bless you all, and thank you, and keep on the good work and pray. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Ambassador. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to talk today about quantum energy, quantum healing, and we have two very special guests with us. One guest who you know has been part of the GoldFish Report in the past, and that's our colleague, Bo. Hi, Bo. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there, Louisa and Ambassador and Karen, and I'm very pleased. I want to send everybody lots of peace and blessings, and a lot of gratitude for asking me to come on today. Peace to all of you.
Thanks, Bo. And also we have a special guest with us today as well, and she goes by the name Clan Mother Karen MacDonald, and she's going to explain what that means, because this is some history that a lot of us don't know about being original tribes gee, I don't know, she's going to have to explain this, but Karen also works with biofeedback and quantum energy healing. And so, Karen, I want to welcome you to the GoldFish Report. Thanks for joining us. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you do this biofeedback quantum healing?
Thank you very much, Mir, as we say, peace. Yeah, you get to that. We welcome you, and we send our love and greetings. And as a clan mother, I'm known as the 13th original clan mother and referred to as Your Grace. And I would present myself formally saying, Karen Ann, my mother's side matrilineally is Lusick, and my father's patrilineal is Barons and MacDonalds. And so I am sitting alive in here, this soul, and I'm coming to you, and I wouldn't use the jurisdiction of Canada. So I would go and introduce also, let's say, from Secwepemc nations, and I arrived into Kamloops, not British Columbia. So what we do is we are able to speak in truth, speak freely, the original language, laws, and customs of the land, and the foundation of all nations are always run and have been by clan mothers. They've been a little shy of them for a few hundred years, actually a couple thousand, but we want to thank you for inviting me here, and for your kindness and for your understanding, because we do everything in the original laws that way. So I don't intercourse into any commerce, I don't bank, and we do everything by sharing, is what you think, the law of gifting. So I don't use bank accounts and stuff. And that actually is when you come into the basis to what you call quantum healing, what you want to call 0-point technology, whether Winston Choate says you zero the bank account, that's what we're talking. There's no duality or charging, discharging. Everything's back to co-creation, and that's what we do. And that's sort of like the Anastasia, the ringing cedars of Russia. That's the idea of what we're trying to do, whether it's in healing modalities. I have probably, and I used to run my own quantum medical healing center in, and I'll be going back to the Etobicoke Nations, what people think is Cree. I was a nurse for many years at the Royal University Hospital, neonatal intensive care, at what we called near the University of Saskatchewan. So I ran basically one of the first integrative medical centers there in quantum health and wellness. So what I did is I moved away from pharmacology and put into essential oils. I've probably got about 20, 30 of those touchy-feely little things. So I've been with the likes of, Dr. Len Horowitz or Gary Young, done raindrop, reflexology, iridology. That progressed into colon hydrotherapy, from Reiki master, Chi, prana, yoga, all sorts of things, crystals. I had one of the first free energy, kind of what I call libraries, so people could come in without any charge. They could lie on my amethyst crystal beds here and do free healings and stuff like that for detox as well. We got them into raw foods, super vegan, to move them into a transition towards Solarianism. And so that as well, being trained with Dr. Richard Bartlett, and that whole crew, is that basically like Reiki master, quantum touch, theta healing, body talk, all sorts of things, but as like a medical intuitive remote viewer as well, and empathic or psionic, as Randy Kramer would say too. We do a lot of that. This particular machine behind me is actually one of the radionic machines. So I'm also a quantum biofeedback specialist, and I've really encouraged people, if they don't know what that is, they can look up SCIO or SCIO, or over there it's QXCI. And so SCIO is a Greek word that meant to know, like Veda. It's the people with the knowledge still. It's considered to be, we'll say, AI, artificial intelligence, extraterrestrial, call it fifth dimensional technology. This was developed by Dr. William Nelson, and he was part of the Apollo 13 project. So we actually can see Kirlian photography, the gas visualization discharge, and this allows the actual individual to basically look at themselves. Well, so I do nothing. And what we do is we can do 9,000 frequency tests, and it's based on Tesla technology, radionics, Rife, scalar, 0-point, orgone, woodpecker, biomorph, bioresonance. So we actually can see from the chakras if they're open or closed. We can do iridology scans on here. I can do blood pathology, plus all the remedies, which is even more fun, because we can actually send them to you radionically, remotely, across the planet or off the planet. If someone's at the moon base or something on a shuttle. But that's basically what it is that the client is receiving these signals, like cell-to-cell communication. So kind of like HARP and all these towers, you're tapping into that scalar field. And it's really an extension of what I can do. So there's no two machines the same, no two sessions the same, and neither does every practitioner be able to have that knowledge. So there is a quantum university, IQUIM, by Dr. Paul Durand, and that is actually where we have our faculty that I was actually asked at one point to develop the curriculum for, the syllabus. But we have the people like Nassim Harriman and David Wolf and Amit and things like that, Dr. Faith Nelson, Gage Tarrant, a whole slew. So we have probably now about 40, 50,000, I would think, of these machines. And they're very, very, even the Milan soccer team and stuff like that have it. But Dr. Bill Nelson or Desiree Dubonnet is over in Budapest, and they've got another immune university. So this is really getting in mainstream now. And so I was one of the first ones. It was all like, kind of before there were universities and even schools, where they used to have master to master sort of teach. And so that's what I did in Vancouver, but in Saskatoon, and did our teaching in Victoria and stuff. So it's integrative, and it really is the client. I don't want to say per se because I don't charge them, but it's the individuals hooking themselves up And it's almost like a lie detector. We can see your pH, you can see the candida, you can see things stored over generations.
Well, this is just fascinating, and I'll tell you, you've hit on so many things that I want to comment on, and I don't want to go into, but Len Horowitz is someone we're in contact with, and we're going to be interviewing Len pretty soon. We're also familiar with David Wolf and, of course, Nassim Harriman and these concepts, and so it's really very fascinating. And so, Bo, there's the way I look at the two of you is very complementary. I mean, I was saying before we started our report today that it was like analog versus digital. So there's two different ways you can do it. It's nice to have the digital equipment, but the analog, which is like the doing it from the energy itself, is I think, Bo, maybe you can just kind of introduce yourself again to our audience who's already seen you once, but it's been quite a while ago, and kind of, can you give us a little bit of a idea of how you do the quantum? I know you witnessed this, but you, to me, are like a facilitator of the healing, because I know that you work in quantum, but I'm going to let you go and explain that. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, too. Well, it's pretty simple. I was born with a psychic child, had the ability to see auras and fairies and dead people, and I had never thought that any of those abilities, I thought everybody was like me, telepathic and so forth. And I didn't ever think that those particular gifts were going to be useful. Especially those kinds of gifts, if you share them with anybody, they're going to take you away in a straitjacket, basically. And so in the 60s, coming up in the 60s as a child, my mother would talk about colored people at the time. And so I thought she was talking about auras, because this was, again, what was, coming up in the 60s. And so pretty much, I've come here, I'm a second round soul. And I've come from here, we have many levels of education here on the planet. And some of our lessons are spiritual, some of them are physical. And so we reach a level as a first round soul, let's just say, and become an ascended master. And then after that, we are what we call a second level soul. And we reach a level of what we call the Godhead, of governance, of spirit, of radiant love. And that's what we bring here to the planet. And so I'm not originally from this planet, and I know I was listening to Karen talk about the star nations. So yes, I am familiar with those star systems. And so some of us are what we call ETs, extraterrestrial, because we've come here to raise the vibration of the planet. A lot of us come here first to clear our own programs, our own belief systems that are blocking us from achieving that radiant love level or unconditional love level. And so we spent some time doing that. So I've cleared my soul programs, my Akashic record, my soul record, my personal record, and it's already cleared. So I don't have a soul anymore, believe it or not. And so I'm now in the function of spirit. So whatever spirit asks me to, that's what I do. So I witness healing every day. I witness, direct and instant healings every day. And like the skio, it is a machine, but my body is a very sophisticated computer, and it has the capacity to remote view and to see the laws of the universe, to see everything using my psychic abilities that I need to see. All I have to do is ask, and then I will receive the answers. So a lot of people here come in and, they're just here to release now discordant energies, and I help them do that by witness. And so I hold a space called unconditional love, which is what you can call quantum or spirit. And spirit is in everything. A rock, a butterfly, a rapist, a murderer. Spirit is in everything, has no judgment. And that's a very hard concept for people to believe, especially people who have religious backgrounds. But spirit is in everything, and nobody could change that even if they tried. It's just what it is. It's quantum. And so when I tap into that energy, it is unconditionally loving. And I used to argue with that. Like I had an issue with God many years ago, and I absolutely hated God. I had to pull my program, Hate of God. But I felt that God had, really dished me out when I was very young. And I was really angry at God. And so I was still stuck on that concept, on the archetype of God. So what I did was I sort of took a hike from that energy, but I'd always been seeking for the understanding that if God was truly unconditionally loving, prove it, you know. I had a lot of journeys, some very spiritual, extraordinary journeys. But I started to realize, you know, that when spirit is in everything, then it has no judgment. That means it is unconditionally loving. And that is a very simple concept for me now. And so since I'm part of that energy, I can do the work I do and act sort of like a God in a sense, where I am a witness, I am spirit, I have an etheric body, and I have an astral body, and I'm made and created in the image and likeness of spirit. And therefore, as a human being, when I have this knowledge, then I can vibrate at that level, and I can witness healing and watch people heal mentally, emotionally, physically, or energetically. And whatever that looks like is what it is, whether it's a grief session, whether it's a past life clearing, whether it's clearing ghosts from somebody's house, whether it's getting rid of cancer in the body. It's all energy. And all that energy is a frequency, and when you can see that and you can watch it leave the body, then you've witnessed a healing done by spirit. And so I don't know if I kind of rambled on that one, but basically I am a light worker. I like that title because I just witness light energy, and I love to work, and I love what I do. And so I just work the light and witness it and watch it leave, and whatever that looks like for people, and they have healings. And then the most important aspect of my work is that I bring in an energy. It's not an affirmation. It's a true energy from spirit called unconditional love, and bring it into people's physical bodies, all the etheric bodies, all their 18 bodies, and then the body is vibrating at that level of consciousness. Very powerful thing. So in a nutshell, Louisa, I hope that sort of satisfied your question.
Okay, sorry, I had a little distraction. I think the first place to start is kind of, let's take an issue and let's hear how maybe Bo would deal with it, and how Karen would deal with it, like how you would go about investigating it and treating it. And, and I'm looking through my notes here, and I can recall just so many things. I mean, human beings are the most powerful beings, in the universe. We are manifestors, and the problem is we don't understand this. We haven't been taught this, and it is by design. So we are just not really just the flesh and blood that we present to the world, and we do have abilities to heal ourselves if we understand how to use our mind. And what you ladies are talking about is that there is a way to use our mind and our abilities, and even our energetic bodies that exist around us, the chakra systems, that can, when people learn how to do this, we can become our own healers, and we can also help to heal other people. So let's just start with one of these issues. And, I think that I hate to start out being so controversial right away, but it looks like we have, and this might be a good thing. We have all this electromagnetic radiation around us. We have our computers, we have our phones, we have these cell towers, we have all of this electromagnetic interference. Mm-hmm. And I know, and I can't wait to hear each of your responses, because I know it's going to be fantastic, because you guys are kind of far out there now. We're talking quantum, and it's not something that we really kind of, how can we put this into our everyday life? So let's start out with Karen. Can you please tell me, what is your approach to people who feel like they're being under energetic attacks? And maybe you can distinguish it, like the demon kind, those energies versus electromagnetic, and then what do we do about it? So how do you go about like figuring out that's what the problem is, and then how can we heal from that? Let's start with Karen and hear what you how you would do that.
Thanks, Louise. I appreciate that. We'll start maybe with what we call the scalar technology, or you're talking about whether it be Gwen towers, smart meters, that kind of thing. One of the things you can do, obviously, to protect yourself, I'd rather start with what can we do first. I've been down the rabbit hole. What is, the problem? So we know about the chemtrails. We know about what's going on with what we call PPAI, which is a predatory pandemic, pathnogenic, it changes the genes, artificial intelligence. And this stuff is being delivered And so the towers are basically just an amplifier of that, kind of like a Tesla coil, and being used into that. So this has been infiltrated in through basically what we call the water. So the water has been weaponized. That's why I only drink spring water, very much like David Wolf or Victor Schauberger. That's why we use essential oils and superfoods, because those are the only things that vibrate. Again, it's all hertz, in there. So I'm technically of time when quantum. I'm not a light worker. And so what happens is that you're actually vibratory. So all your diseases or pathogens, usually, or cancers or heart or anything, the frequency drops into the 40, 50 hertz. You're surrounded by 60 hertz. Just to get your mind free, it's going to take at least 105. So until we get basically what we call alkaline, like out of the acidity level and back into here, that actually correlates for most people into the chakras or the colors. And that's the same thing whether you want to say, your heart's 432, whatever. Everyone's got a different variation of it, but that's where the food becomes very important. And more so is the minerals. And now all of a sudden they just found 115 new electrolytes and minerals or ennobled things. So when you combine with what's going on with Fukushima and detonation of nuclear radionics, which is happening, we're having nuclear radiation that has breached containment, whether it be in CERN, University of Saskatchewan, what we call the Light Hadron Collider. There's one specifically for me now. I found in New Zealand called Karen Ryan's. But even where the ambassador is right now, most of the rad counts are over 500, 600, 700, which is not being disclosed to the public. So that particular is, affecting our brain waves, the gamma, the whatever. So how do we protect ourselves? Very simply, we go back to basics. We have to go back to being alkaline, so I get everyone on baking soda. We make sure we have all the ennobled minerals. So if you're actually ennobled and radiating, we're going to radiate too. Okay, so kind of what's inside is out, and we're seeing this happening. I don't like to consider it being demonic entities. Some people do, whether it's archonic and get into that sort of thing, or satanic Luciferian. I like to stay with really basic things for people, okay? And that way, if we just deal with it, that everything is transmutable, everything is energy, we do a lot better that way, on that. And there are different, what we call covenants/treaties, where certain things, if you want to talk about, 212 aliens or something, they shouldn't be here. And there's been a breach since 2013. So a lot of those things are being dealt with by other people right now. And there's breaches of what we call international treaties that I'm dealing with,
Right.
things to do. That technology is being utilized or weaponized as genocide, and it's a weapon of mass discussion for that particular thing, or transhumanism. Patty, with my blessing, got into what we call the NCBI, or the Human Genome Project.
I'm sorry to interrupt, just for our viewers, that's Sergeant Patty Bassard that you're talking about, who will be joining us in a future GoldFish report with Karen. We'll be talking about really, really deep technical stuff that's going on. And so I'm sorry to interrupt, but while I'm interrupting, let me just ask you this. What happens in the brain to these things when this happens? Before I go to Bo to answer that question, I wanted to ask you what happens in the brain and how can you fix that with this? I mean, can this CO machine do some of those repairs?
Absolutely, it certainly can. And what I was referring to with the McMac elder, also known as former Sergeant Patty Bassard, just to let you know, Patty set up the weapons and all the space lab and secret space program for NASA. And because built all the computers, we have access to everything still. And was part of the, what we call the Iraqi, but into the Freedom Team, and led the Freedom Team for the U.S. Army. So Patty's got a huge background as well, being the great-great-grandchild of the former Micmac, when the clan mother was actually run out of France, the Fern Caroline mother. So Patty comes at it kind of like Meredith Quinn, and we know all that stuff, and is one of our guardians, actually, kind of like my guardian angel too. But when we use things, let's say with Dr. Gary Young, we've developed things, it's scrambling the brain. This PPAI is accentuated, so you're basically getting radiated. Not just satellites, not just the solar flares, what we see on all Skycam. And we are probably just about 2 weeks into a Star Wars battle with extraterrestrials that we can see from Palladian and Octarians that are actually on the ground, that anyone can go to at allskycam.com or Daniel Brad McMullen III, and they can go to YouTube and see it for themselves. So I'm part of that disclosures and part of the stuff that was happening with Keshi and some of the frauds with Susan Alexander. We've got a lot of things to do because some of that technology making these pens are not helpful. They can actually drain the energy. And so a lot of people are using these things assuming that they're helpful when they really are not.
You're talking about the Keshe technology. I'm sorry to interrupt because you are hitting on so many things I want to talk about, but I want to give Bo a chance. Just let me come back to you in just a second. I want to give Bo a chance to address this because basically these, you know, whether they could even be satellite weapons or they could be Bluebeam or even just satellites. What are the, Bo, let me ask you, Bo, what are the consequences on our human brain and on our energy system with all this electromagnetic energy around us, you know, the iPods, the phones, the televisions, and of course all the cell phone towers. And when you're doing healing or witnessing the healing, how do you help clear something like that?
Well, that's just it, you know, and I love that Karen said something very simple, okay? Because, you know, when somebody asked me to read on these powers that are behind all this, you know, it became very simple that it was all about mind control and world domination. Very simple stuff, you know, and then we have the chemtrails, HARP, and full spectrum dominance on the planet. And so, you know, let's just say with the chemtrails, they spray them and then, you know, then the chromotherapy coming in doesn't come straight to people. And then people are blocked from receiving color, you know, and color has an essence and an intelligence, okay? Or then our planet is being blocked, okay? So we have this higher level. All I do is witness. So for instance, I'll look at water. If it's dirty, I will connect with the energy and everything spirit, which can do anything, created everything, can change anything, and I'm part of that. And I'll just ask that spirit clear the water, and then I witness it clear. I'll witness all kinds of minerals and things leave the water, and then I bring in the energy of a blessing of unconditional love, and I hold space for that, and I witness the water completely turn into love, light, energy, just like Emoto's talking about, okay? And so that is first rule of applied quantum mechanics. That which is observed is changed by the observer. If I, for instance, burn my hand, I will stop, I will connect with the energy and everything, I will bend time, rewind the clock to 2 seconds before the burn, I will imagine that I'm wearing an ice glove, I'll see that ice glove get touched by the heat, and so it's no longer burned. And then I rewind the clock, pull the shock and trauma out of my skin, and there's no burn. Okay, so that's witness. And it is very powerful to witness. And everybody on the planet is witnessing, but not everybody's consciously aware that they are witnessing and creating. You know, so we're creating all this. And I was listening to Karen. She's certainly, you know, she's brilliant. She just knows a lot of information. And you know, we all have access to that, and I'm aware of it as well, you know. What I do, especially with the healing, I started to see people coming in with the same issues. You know, they had no clarity, they were dysfunctional, they couldn't get out of bed, and it was just on a collective level. And so when I asked my teams, my high self teams, huge, you know, it's like the Spartans behind me, they said it's chemtrails, it's GMO. It's vaccinations, it's cognitive dissonance, it's radiation, it's a turkey shoot, you know? And so I can't have judgment on that. Whoever's doing it, you know, I just love, bless, and release them. And I just bring love to them. And what I do is then I clear the energy that the person has picked up. And then I clear it to infinity. So, and then I give them the energy of what a chemtrail is through spirit, through unconditional love and light, so they have no judgment. And I make sure that that energy is the same as spirits, and then I make them, I make that energy inert, basically, and they become impervious to that energy. That's what I do. I witness that.
Well, this is interesting because you guys, your answers are very loaded, and I know that I'm going to have to go back to watch this myself a few times so I can understand everything that you're saying. And I've had extensive time talking to both of you, and I think that I still need more time to review this because what we're saying here is I know that from a previous conversation we had, Karen, that the magnetosphere is being used to shut down our ability, our brain. Is this to disrupt our brain? I think when you and I and Patty Broussard had spoken, that this is, now they're starting to use like gold ions in the Large Hadron Collider. And so, all of this is about physics. It's all about physics and a physics that we don't really, I guess we haven't really had a lot of access to so that we can understand, because of course, if we understood it, we could work against it. We wouldn't be under that influence and control. But is this scrambling our brains? Is this what this is doing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And bottom line, yes, it's a transhumanistic. It's scrambling your brain, your thoughts. Actually, your thoughts can be read. They can be changed. They can be picked up. And like a computer chip, reinserted back into people. I mean, most people, they knew the depth of what was really going on in some of these alien contracts and stuff that the underground shadow governments were doing, taking women, or, realizing the first thing is even to stop the banking and to get off the grid and being people self-empowered, growing our own food. And these are all steps towards that. It's people losing their memory. And that's part of what Climb Others, we kind of still hold that vision. Utilizing essential oils. Like I said, I don't even recognize like organic. We were talking about like looking at the stickers like that have like number 9 on them.
Can you show that a little closer? Because I want our viewers to understand. See this number? Okay, you can hold it right there. That's good.
Yeah.
94011, and you see the barcode. Could you explain to us what? And it says organic. What is that? Now, the 9 in the beginning of that code, you see this on your produce in the supermarket. And can you explain to our viewers who aren't familiar with that, what does that mean?
Yeah, actually, it's actually quite interesting. I'm actually go for noble foods, or I call virgin, or you're hearing the whole thing about raw but superfood. So really if you want to say premier or noble quality of food is something that's wild or foraged. It's, unmolested, it's pharmaceutical, petrochemical, GMO, Monsanto, whatever we want to say. That's what we're looking for, and that's you are what you eat. So when I'm sort of going towards Solarian or breatharianism, like prana and stuff, I can go for weeks or a month without eating and drinking. You want to do your therapy, have fun. But
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Now you're saying some terms that I think some of our viewers might not be familiar with. Breatharianism.
Breatharian. We'll go back. It's what you call dry fasting or prana, or as a yogini, it's again people that don't eat and don't drink. So when you're able to become self-empowered, there are tens of thousands of people, like Jericho Genesis Sunfire is one. Jazz Muheen is another one that has her embassy of peace. These are known people or saints. It's gone through all time and eternity that people have been able to actually not use food or water.
Okay.
So that is what's called, again, a solarianum. And that's some people call it sun gazing. I just use the word soul because it's a soul transit, different language technology. But what we're trying to do is actually raise our vibration here. And the number 9 organic is what I call the second class.
I see.
Okay. So it's like second best. There's no such thing as, second best to me. So I just try to avoid it, but I brought some off here. Superfoods is what I prefer that people go down because they go down 20 to 80 feet and they're tree bearing as a rule fruit. So what you're going to have is goji berries, raw chocolate, like raw cacao. So I was just showing you earlier not to rub it in too much, but these are actually all raw. These are nuts and stuff like that. Or I get people on.
I love chocolate. You're showing me chocolate.
I know. I was just showing you. These are freezer chocolates. I people how to make within 5 minutes and put them in the freezer. But in here, I have 20, 30 herbs and the essential oils. So
gotcha.
Yeah, the organic is 9, and then below that would be GMO conventional. And so the stickers start with 4, 6, 7, or 8.
Very interesting. I just don't think people are aware of this. And also, just let me go to Bo for a second, because Bo, I know that you have a technique that you use that clears things in food. Maybe I've witnessed you do this. So can you explain to our viewers how you deal with some of these foods that are not on the, as Karen's talking about, they're not in the 9s, they're below the 9s. They may have some GMO in it. We're all still eating it whether we want to or not. It's not out of our diet, and it's not out of the supply chain. We try to go organic. We think that's the right thing to do. But I remember witnessing something that you did, Bo. And can you explain to our viewers what can we do if we are stuck having to eat these foods that are, as Karen was describing, the lower numbers, and maybe even the organic might not even be 100%. But can you tell us what you do with in quantum or in theta to deal with those kinds of foods and make it so that it's not poisonous to our body, or at least harmful, I should say?
Well, I tell you, love is the most powerful, unconditional love is the most powerful energy in the universe, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll just love that orange. I know, we know that the top cells have been depleted. When Karen was talking about 9 is the number for spiritual completion. Nothing is random. No number, nothing. And so what I'll do is that, I will just take, we know that all whole foods are medicinal. We know that. And so, most people are eating processed foods, but they just don't know. They've been indoctrinated by, major corporations and so forth. But, there are people that have the knowledge and wisdom that's just pretty simple. And a lot of more and more people, it's like spirituality is like popcorn. Everybody's popping and they want to eat organic and they want to have their foods clean and so forth. But what I do, is that I just will look at the energy. I'll connect with the energy and everything, spirit. That's everybody's divine birthright, And once I connect with that energy, I ask spirit to change and remove all the discordant energies that would harm my body. And then I ask that it be filled with unconditional love and that the vibration be raised. Because it's all about vibration. Dead food is dead. There's no vibration. So I just add the vibration through spirit.
So what you're doing is you're addressing the energy of the food, and you're kind of like going into quantum. You're asking spirit to kind of, make this inert, make it not harmful to your body. You can't make it not GMO, but what you can do is try to transmute the energy. Is that what you're saying you're doing?
Right, because with GMO, seedless is GMO, right? There's no seed, there's no life force. The seed is life. It's the very essence of a seed, generates energy. It's all about vibration. It's all about energy. It just is. It's like a lot of people, let's just say autism, the swing with autism. Well, they started ultrasound on a pregnant woman. And that ultrasound, that frequency affects the brain of that developing baby. Why do we have this surge in autism? Okay?
Right.
We go in quantum and we correct the fetus. If we will ask, is that fetus, developing correctly? And we'll hear no. Why? Because, again, this frequencies is impacting the baby in the womb. And so we'll just say clear the frequency. I don't ever work on the soul of a baby, or the baby won't incarnate. Why would they want to come here if they don't have to? And so I'll just ask that frequency be removed, and I watch it leave with my third eye, which is my psychic ability. Like Supergirl, and I just watch it leave, and then it leaves, and then I watch the energy of unconditional love come in, which has no opposites, and it just loves, and boom, it's done. And it doesn't matter if it's a food, it doesn't matter if it's a peanut, it doesn't matter if it's a rock, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's an energy that's not serving me, then I just ask that it be eliminated. It's like with vaccinations. There's a lot of stuff in the vaccination, but not everybody's aware of it. And a lot of those things literally block the cell receptor sites, and then people are not absorbing minerals. And people then start to get all kinds of diseases, autoimmune diseases, Lou Gehrig's, you name it, because they're just not absorbing the benefits of those minerals, So the impact is very great. And you could go on and on and on, but when you train yourself and you allow yourself to witness and you say, hey, this particular virus isn't serving this person, can it leave? And you ask the person, are you ready to get rid of it? And they say yes, then that yes is very powerful. And then I can come in and witness whatever needs to change. And once it's witnessed, then it's done.
Well, I mean, here's this, and that's phenomenal because I've seen you do it yourself. And Karen mentioned the Kirlian photography, and I just have to say that under the Kirlian photography is a special kind of photography. Maybe Karen can go into more details, and it shows you the energy of the food that we're eating. And why is that important? Because if you're a breatharian, right, then you're not eating food, but you can still, I don't see any reason why our bodies can't still, eat. Look, the way I look at it is if it grows, we're supposed to eat it. It's here for us to consume. And if it's, natural and healthy for us. So, but it's the energy of the food that we really need. I'm not quite sure that, and I'm not going to get into a big medical debate about this at this moment, but I think because we're talking about energy today. So we are talking about nutrients in food, but we're also talking about energy of the food. And the Kirlian photography shows you, it gives you an aura of the food. And isn't it the energy of the food that really gives us our nourishment? Or how can you explain that, Karen?
Actually, right behind me is the skill biofeedback. I'm actually doing someone remotely across the planet right now. That is part of the Kirlian photography, whether I can see remotely, and I can see through my third eye too. I come at it a little bit differently because having done matrix energetics and a lot of stuff, and if you want to say clearing or whatever, we just know it just slightly changes the structure. It doesn't clear them properly. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any clients to do for everyone that was praying. And I have a little different thing on Dr. Emoto's, having talked to Shandini Luray. Kirlian photography, this is one from David Wolf's book here. Okay, everything has energy or frequency, and so just praying over it is not going to clear the Monsanto. Otherwise, I have nothing to do.
Can I see that? Can you just hold that up and show us what we're looking at? What the difference? So one must be a GMO and one, that's good right there. Which one is GMO and which one isn't? Because we can see the energy around both and they do look different.
Which one do you want to guess?
Let's see. I would say the GMO is on the left, right, because there's less energy.
Yeah.
And the right one produces more energy, which I think would be more of a natural, beneficial. Yeah, I see. Yeah,
that's actually.
So you're putting we're putting things in our body that don't help our body. It doesn't have the energy our body needs. It's not even the nutrition level. We're even talking just about the energy of it. Okay.
Exactly. And just to let you know, that's the difference between cooked food and raw food. So once you cook any food over 105 degrees, you lose all the enzymatic or the actual auric field. And so that food then becomes actually carcinogenic or toxin and starts toxing you. So,
okay, so if you're steaming broccoli, we shouldn't steam broccoli. But it's better steamed. Can we steam it for like 20 seconds? I'm going to push the boundary. Look, let's talk technical. If we can't steam this broccoli, most of us can't eat it, and it's a little difficult to digest as it is. So some of us don't really process it that well, and we might need to have it steamed a little bit to help us, and even then it might not, but that's another conversation. Because our digestive systems are, I think, shot. I mean, there's children on proton pump inhibitors, okay? Something's wrong with our food if people don't wake up and realize this. We have children on proton pump inhibitors with, this is just unheard of. And you talk about, and I know I'm kind of throwing a lot at you at the moment, but you also talk about colonics and why it's so important to do these colonics, and you're like a really big advocate of that. And then I'm going to go to Bo about this afterwards. But Karen, tell us about this, what you just said, and then also this whole issue of colonics and why we need to be doing them.
Sure. My favorite subject. I spent years in the back of my center there just developing protocols for it. Everything on this planet, when tribal law, it's like the highest form of law. It's over maritime, admiralty, administrative court. I don't care what it is. It's all about the water, and two things is the salt. But anyway, that's why we use spring water. It goes from the roots like a tree, levitates up, and it deposits into those superfoods. And raw cacao after essential oils are the most powerful ones. When we're using that, I get all my people basically on Himalayan salt, or you can get black salt, or I don't care what it is. You make a solution called Soleil, and you add it to the spring water, You can put all the salt you want. Doesn't mean you access. It's about learning how to access technology. This then releases your ennobled ormus or shewbread in the scripture, minerals, electrolytes. Once you have that established and then enzymes, then you can start accessing or making anything. So I'd really encourage people to look at a book. It's called Water and Salt, The Essence of Light. You can basically, people can do all the healing they want through that. As a colon hydrotherapist and a pioneer and developer in that field, I've had, the angels of the mist, the age of Aquarius, whatever I am, angelically. But that's what we did, is that we have basically, and you can look up colon hydrotherapy, water irrigation, and I have a new term, I'm calling it colon hydro soul therapy. Okay? It's basically the introduction of water through a machine that's very, very non-invasive and is actually very relaxing. In fact, I just had one done by a doctor, actually it's very rare to find a Russian doctor, but I was near Ottawa today. And so that's why we had to reschedule. And I appreciate you doing that later because we had to run to Ottawa getting colonics, the last couple of days. And so you introduce basically herbal waters. We can put in also essential oils like lavender, clove. It's deity and gospel of peace, basically. And what people used to call entities or demons are really what I call pathogens, even like the PPAI. The home version anyone can do. They can get these bags. So instead of drip, 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 like when I was a nurse and putting it right into your vein, we basically put in spring water warmed up to about 104 degrees, just like a bathtub, and we put in the essential oils. We put in missing salts, all your electrolytes, and sometimes I'll put a glucose in too. I'll put a little bit of maple syrup, grade 3, because it's dark. And we will put in all sorts of things, shaga mushroom. We will put in whatever you're missing, bentonite clay, to basically neutralize or chelate out these heavy metals. Some people use wheatgrass, some people use coffee. I like to use aluminum-free baking soda, which is a natural thing, and putting a little bit of borax, get everyone on that within a couple of days. They're just like brand new. Because actually our blood, and I'm AB positive, I'm a tribal, by the way, which is very different compared to if people have Rh negative blood. What they consider to be, the blue bloods, the monarchy, or things like that.
I'm sorry, that positive is what? What did you say?
Rh positive is tribal blood. It's original tribal blood. And there's been people that have been modified through transhumanism and other methodologies, what you call the monarchy, the blue bloods. Their blood is different. One is iron-based, one is copper-based. So that's even why Keshi pens will drain someone's energy and actually alter something. So you're playing with elements here, just getting near the auric field.
This is interesting because Eve. So this is why it's important, because our system's turning to sludge.
Yeah, it is. And so that enema bag, basically you can just put the water in. Anyone can do this. They can go down to even the local pharmacy or Walmart or go. This one's Covidin. This is actually one of the best ones I can get that you get here. Mm-hmm. And you put it in with warm water. And even if you put Epsom salt, so just put water and salt, it's going to have a great effect. Okay. And you actually slowly introduce the water and you just put it in. And if anyone's had a tampon, I know the ambassador hasn't, but for those of us that have had, it's not very big. You don't even know it's in here.
Exactly.
In a cup over a week or two, not at all, just joking, but over 5 minutes, dropping in a cup or two, you hold it for a few minutes, and then let it absorb. It's not about getting poop out, but this is physical, mental, and emotional, and that colon is a reflexology point that correlates to the 33 points and the 33 vertebrae, and it's beyond the Masonic stuff. It has to do with the whole thing to do with Isis and some of the original temple things that we did, and that was our Treaty of Peace, as Clamothers, we call it Noah's Ark. And Isis and stuff, but that was keeping everything clean and healthy and chematic. This is what alchemy is. It's the camel's eye.
It's alchemy, exactly. And you know what? I just have like 100 questions, and I'm not going to get to them all. So we're going to get to them another time. We're going to have to come back. And I know that our viewers are going to have lots of questions, and probably questions about specific ailments and things that they can do. But Bo has talked to me about and counseled me, I should say, regarding trace elements and trace minerals. And so, Bo, you were, so generous and kind, and helping instruct me on the importance of those trace minerals, and that they're the metals that are in our water, and what's going on in our water right now, which is, there's a lot going on in our water. But Bo, why is it so important to have these trace minerals? Can you explain, and how does that on an energetic level affect us?
Well, we are crystal elemental children. The biggest our skeletal system is made up of calcium. There's zincs, there's the salts in our body, there's iodine, there's iron in the blood. We are crystal children, and we are made up of our beautiful planet. And so what we've found in our healing modalities is that people don't know what it feels like to experience the energy of support, and that's what minerals do. They give the body structure and support. Skeletal system holds up with the skin and all the organs and glands and so forth. Our rugged American thesis that's taught in political science classes throughout the United States is about the rugged American. Do it all by yourself, and if you don't, you're a weakling. That is totally against the mineral plane, which is here to support us. So if a person doesn't have a belief that they can receive and accept support from minerals or God or other people, they don't feel God supports them, they don't feel their family supports them, it doesn't matter how many minerals they're going to take. It's not going to get assimilated into the system. And so what will happen in that a lot of times, and especially if a person doesn't have good boundaries, they will start to accumulate heavy metals. And those metals will go into particular areas in the body where there are metals, like attracts like, law of attraction. So I'll find a lot of people will have lots of metals around where they wear earrings. They get tinnitus in the ears. Women who have like breast disease, breast cancer, and so forth, they will have excess metals right near the underwire bra, like attracts like. And so there's a balance with minerals as well, and having the right amount. And it really does come from really a belief that you can receive and accept support from God, from spirit, and then from other people. And allowing yourself to receive that, then you will start to assimilate those minerals. And then to feel it is very important, because we know with quantum, the people that believe that they could be healed are the ones that really do heal. But the people that really feel and know what a healing is will even heal even greater. Universal healing is accessible to everybody. It's always been. And so once you allow yourself to receive and accept the benefits of the support of those minerals, salts, extraordinary. Our system, our body is amazing. It's just amazing. The iodine, the iron, people have iron absorption blocks. Why? As soon as you put a needle in the skin, your intuitive body will see that as a threat. The body will say, remember that past life where you were a crusader and you were stabbed with a sword? The intuitive body stops absorbing, and then people start to they're not assimilating. They're not really assimilating the iron. It's building up in the body like little ball bearings of iron balls, thickening the blood. Then a person gets pissed off, angry at somebody, and guess what? That iron conducts and people get leukemia. Minerals, we are what we are. Minerals are very important. It's the first plane of existence, rocks and minerals, the periodic table. The earth itself, that's why when we go out in nature, we do the dance with all the minerals, because we are in our element.
I gotcha. And what we were talking about, thanks, Bo, and that's right. And so speaking about minerals, Karen had mentioned before this issue of balancing the pH of our body, that our foods were way too acidic. Our bodies are mostly way too acidic. And I know we were talking about this before, because I happen to like cappuccinos, and it's very acidic. So I need to make sure I do what I can to balance the acidity and be a little bit more alkaline. And the thing about the Himalayan salt, from what I understand, is that it doesn't have an effect on our blood pressure. Is that what the main benefits is of the Himalayan salt? And I'm not sure who wants to answer that first. Let me see what Bo wants to answer that. Then I'm going to go to Karen, because Karen brought it up. Bo.
Well, I understand in the quantum healing that I do, in terms of acidity, is people have hate programs, and they either hate God or they hate themselves. You know, if they're a woman, they may hate women. If they're a female, if they're a man, they may hate men. They may hate love. They may hate life, their mother or their father. Hate is a discordant energy, and it keeps the body acidic. So when we look at disease, somebody comes in and I can smell, let's say, ovarian cancer. I already know that that person has a hate program. Mm-hmm. And so I will, get rid of the hate program and bring in unconditional love and acceptance. And then I know that they feel rejected, they have resentment, they have regrets, they have grudges, and they have rage. That hate will keep the body acidic. And then if they have guilt will attract harmful bacteria. Over amount of guilt will attract harmful bacteria. It's a program, it's a belief system. And then they may have a lot of resentment. That will attract fungus. And then if they have unworthiness, then they will attract a parasite known as a virus. Those are the 4 mytoplasms of disease and disorder as I know it in the witness of healing in terms of viruses and so forth, funguses and bacteria. And some things are strains and strands of all of them, bacterial, virus, fungus, whatever. And so what I understand and what I see for acidity is that just in doing belief work and getting rid of the hate, the body will go into alkalinity. And I've watched ovarian cancer, and I can smell when a body goes into alkalinity, by just pulling those very belief programs of hate,
And so you're saying that they have to clear these programs on an energetic and a quantum level in order to be able to their body to be able to become more alkaline.
Well, there's many ways in and out of Rome. So if you follow an alkaline diet, herbs are blessed and they will do the same things. For every disease and disorder, there's a mineral or a mineral combination that will heal it. For every disease and disorder, there's an herbal or a food combination, just like there's amino acid combinations, just like maybe it's using all of those combinations to clear, illness or sickness. It's always been here.
Right. And so what's funny is, and I think Karen can probably talk about this too, is when you look at the cauliflower, it looks like the brain. And lo and behold, cauliflower is very good for our brain. And so, Karen, I wanted to ask you about this Himalayan salt, and I wanted to have you comment on that. Were there other benefits of using specifically the pink Himalayan salt, or are there other types of Himalayan salt? And really, how do you address this whole issue of getting your body a little bit more alkaline, so that, because the problem is when your body's alkaline, it deprives these toxic cells of oxygen, which is what they need to reproduce, like cancer and so forth. And if you deprive them of oxygen, then they can't survive. So if I have that understanding correct, can you take it from there?
Okay, I kind of overstand. It's my area in here now. One of the things I just wanted to, sort of add on to something or share is that most of these minerals, again, are electrolytes, and they're missing. They're not being absorbed. That's why it's important. It kind of takes the phlegm off, or the mucus or the placoid off, whether it's in the arteries and veins, but it always starts in the colon. Virtually death or dying really starts there. And I do something also, this is just another book too. It's called Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. It's a little different, and it was Dr. Carolyn Mean. And this is kind of neuro-linguistic programming, kind of like in matrix energetics. We used to have people that were paralyzed and get up and walk because you're holding space. That space of love. And so that's where we do nothing. And that's where people have to really educate themselves on there. But we use actually that combined more with essential oils. When I do Vitaflex or raindrop massage or that kind of thing in iridology. When you get to the minerals, that's really what's in here too, at a very nanoparticulate level. That's what we're doing. And I don't consider it to be a benefit. And or shut everything down, no trust, things like that. So what we want to do is basically, this is what people used to actually gift in. In fact, if you say, our roads don't lead to Rome, because they used to get actually paid in Soleil. So that's why just adding some at the bottom here. This happens to be a Hawaiian salt. Okay.
Okay, we see that. Red sea salt, though. Okay.
Yeah, red sea salt.
Okay.
I also have Himalayan here. I also have a black salt that actually has activated charcoal in it, like zeolite.
Aren't those volcanic based, though? I mean,
Yeah.
because I've been to Hawaii, I've seen the red volcanic rocks, I've seen the black volcanic rocks. So I have to imagine some of that's based from the volcanic. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, and that's actually why there's something, and I'd love to talk to the ambassador on as well, too, because one of the things we're exploring right now is something called Salmaic, which, and I don't use the word God, because God's very, it meant let evil take its course, or let chaos take its course, actually. It's a Vaticanized word in 451. But the thing, too, is that in here, in the creator salt, or great spirit, or the energy of it, is that basically this is what we're doing. We're moving the energy through. And so this is how simple you can make Soleil, and it's in the saline solution. So that's why that book is really, really important, because it shows everything in the periodic table. But that's why, if you want to say soldiers, whatever, we don't pay them, but you would gift them in salt. You are worth your salt.
That's where that place comes. I see. That's where that. No, it's not a coincidence, then, is it?
And the Cristal or Christos, that happened to go back into this. That's why, again, we're taking back what sort of like our heritage, like we talked about on the Healing Circle Network that we've done now. And that's really what we're getting back into, is this Salmaic, which it was basically an ammonium chloride. And what happened is people have basically been dumbed down through draconian or other awful things. These kind of things have added, and we basically fractured all our DNA strands. And so the DNA is the data. That's why people can't access the memory properly. And so we're using this. It used to be referred to as, it was a leavening agent, basically, in baking soda and powders that has been removed. Again, everything's been removed out of there. It's been enriched. It's been treated. There's nothing worse than treated water or treated people, And so this Salmaic was also used in, the only way we can get it here is salty licorice, and I just found some powder. Actually, one of my guys is doing, I've done some sessions. They don't charge people, so they gift me. I'm getting some powder out of Stockholm or something now. But what it does is it reactivates the triple strand. And that's what we got to do. We got to flip it so that it can actually repair on the phosphorus, and then basically flip from a negative pole to a positive pole. And then we have the ability to start basically doing the repair we call the 21st chromosome, or actually Dr. Richard Bartlett used to call it frequency 21 when we were doing all our matrix energetics and healing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's called 2-pointing, or way beyond that. It was actually more of a 3-point kind of a trinity thing, but
I'll tell you.
what we're really doing. And that electrolyte gets in.
Okay.
And that's what we do. We flush salts. And that's why it's so, so important. That book is really just, it's phenomenal. It really comes down to salt and water. And even if you get Himalayan salt, or it's some of our sacred, like White Bear, where we've got our gatherings and stuff, we've got like a Manitou Lake up by, Saskatoon that you can't even sink in. We bob, and people would have spontaneous healing. That's where you're seeing, it's not the salt lamps, you're missing it inside. And people are always searching, is it gold backed or whatever? It's us. We've got to become that self-empowered battery.
Well,
So we're not requiring support.
I have to tell you, I'm so impressed. You're so knowledgeable. Both of you women are so incredibly knowledgeable. You have such wisdom, and I really want to appreciate you bringing it here and sharing it with us on the GoldFish Report. We're at our close mark here, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to try to just wrap this up. I'd like to see if you have any final. This is one of many interviews we're going to do. It's almost like everything you said, I'm taking notes, and I'm just making an outline of questions because we have to define a lot of these things for our viewers who aren't familiar with it. And by all means, we're here to explore these concepts. I think people ultimately always need to do their own research and find what resonates with them. This might not resonate with you, or some might and some might not. but we just ask you to be open-minded and willing to learn and to take in new information, and again, do your own research for yourselves. So what I'd like to do is ask both of you women to please give me your final comments just for today after what we talked about, because what we're talking about is energy. We're talking about, like Bo said, quantum mechanics, and this is a different kind of conversation that we're used to having socially, and of course we're all women talking about it, and we're breaking barriers, glass ceilings, whatever you want to call it, which I think it's time that we have to allow the women who have the knowledge, who have the ability, and to come forth and bring forth this this knowledge. A lot of this is actually passed down through generations, and now we can scientifically explain it, in a way that we can understand it now. So, and I also want you to give us your contact information. So if people have questions, if they want to have counseling with you, I know Karen's also on Facebook, and I'm going to put, I have an email for Karen, and I also have her Facebook link, which I'm going to put in the description section of this video. So if any of you can't get a pencil and paper to write this down, it will be posted on the description section, and you can always come back to it and get that information. So if you want to have a consultation with Karen, or if you want to have questions about specific ailments, she is a nurse, but she's not a doctor, but she is a practitioner in other ways. So what you have to do is weigh this for yourself and have that conversation with her. And then I'm going to ask Bo if Bo would be so kind to do the same thing. Extremely knowledgeable, just incredibly working on another wonderful level, but again, talking about quantum mechanics, quantum energy, and how we can really harness that to heal our bodies. So let me start with Clan Mother Karen and ask you to please give us your final thoughts on what we talked about today. What would you like to leave our viewers with? What final thoughts would you like to leave our viewers with? And also what your contact information is. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Actually, what I'd like to do is just have us actually sit back and just take a deep breath for a minute. And actually, if we've got anything, even water in front of us, and do kind of a group. Some people call it healing. I think just a group sharing. You know what I mean?
Sure. And
I'd like to just have everyone take a nice deep breath, because we can go into this stuff here, and that's actually the most exciting thing I could do for you. You can get a hold of me, yes, on Facebook. You can have sessions with me. That's great. We can remote view. We can do all that stuff. And if what people want to do, we're focusing on the soul or the solutions now. And like Patty's developed a thing. We've got it called it Cypress Hills of Canada. I have got things where I've got my own flag set up, and I'll be at the two nations north of Saskatoon. That's the second largest medicine wheel I've been protecting for years for a long reason. Wrong reasons there. But let's just take a deep breath. And let's just, if we could do that, we'll just kind of do a healing. And if you take some water before and after. And I just want you to just feel that your feet on the ground and just connecting into the mother. And there's incredible waters in healing. And just like roots growing into the core, into that middle earth, the agartha there, and bring up the energy that we have for you. And just feel your feet on the floor. And just do your own scan inside. That's what it's about. And your knees. And into your solar plexus and stuff. All those areas, we'll look at the red color in the core. Into your root chakra. That's getting back to base. And into the second, into an orange, like a carnelian. Into the third, around your belly button, just the soul, like citrine. Your heart's gorgeous. It's all that gorgeous emerald jade green there. And into our throats, lapis or sapphire blue. And right through us is that amethyst into the third eye, or pineal gland, or the middle of the forehead, and into the crown. And we open it right up and just go through that soul transit, right through the soul gate there, as you may know as the sun, and just keep going. And let's bring down all that energy that we have. It's like just full of stuff in Lanikia. And let's just wash ourselves and ground with that healing water. And just let it flow over you and let that go. Nice deep breaths. And so it is. We can do that as well. We need to really take a step back, and that's what I'm saying. Grab some essential oil, look at your foods, look at the water, go to findaspring.com. This is the difference between life and death. Whether I want to say, I don't even think in those terms, it's different frequency. You know, the water, I did one of the things actually with one of the guys, with the Keshi guys, and you don't measure this in 5 or 15 hertz, you'd all be dead, as they told me, or machinery. I can measure it from here. This is a lie detector test to me. And when I see things that people, you know, are still acidic, that means they haven't figured this out yet. We need to get it so this is radiating. And everything you put in your system has a frequency. So if you did the coffee, it's going to take you like 12 cups of water, and we don't burn foods or oils. They're cold air diffused. And so I just want to put that out there for people to know who they are. It's about an intention and knowing what your vibe of the tribe is. We wouldn't be even together here having this conversation otherwise. And this is what people really need to do. They need to look at like Meredith Quinn, tribal laws, and find out who they are. They can go and do an mtDNA test in their genetics. You can't have an inheritance or claim hereditary anything, or the women can't stand on the lands anymore until they know who they are and they've done their internal thing and know even their blood type, something as simple as, you know, Rh positive or negative, that you can get typed right away. That's very, very important.
Well, Karen, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I hope that our viewers, you know, will do this, they'll maybe do it again, share it with their friends or their family members, and kind of take that time to kind of do that energy. Can you give us your, before we go to Bo, could you just give us your contact information, which I will be posting, by the way, and what is your contact information that you have for our viewers?
Well, if people would like to get a hold of me, you know, one of the best ways is actually clanmother13@gmail.com, and the original languages like Cleopatra and stuff, or alchemy is with a K. So KLANMOTHER13@gmail. I am on Skype, and I see most of my clients that way, so we have a visual. That becomes my virtual medical office now. And so that's called Karen Mack, CALLED KARENMAC. I've got 2 or 3, or maybe on Facebook, Karen Ann MacDonald or Karen Mack. I do encourage people to look at actually Pell de Albasards. That's where we post actually almost all our things that we find. So when people are wanting to know what the radiation counts are, where they are, or what we've done with CERN, or what we've been doing in healing or off things, and the new plans that we have for this enclave, because we have to get this together, and that's where people can be helpful as we're moving into a shift without money.
Right.
I've done it for years. I know what it's like.
Right. So that's good. I'll put all those contacts on our description section. And what I'm going to do is, so if anyone missed that, I'm going to include those in our links. And then I'm going to go over to Bo. And Bo, I just wanted to ask you, if there was any final thoughts that you wanted to leave with our viewers on the subjects that we talked about, any kind of particular message that you would want to leave them with to think about, and also if there's any kind of way to contact you, any contact information that you have that you would like to share for people who would like appointments as well, or more information.
Well, I'd just like to leave everybody with the idea and the thought that universal healing exists, and it's available to everybody. And we are all created in the image and likeness of spirit. You know, we are spirit, we are etheric, and we are astral, and nothing less than that. And so there are many, many ways that a person can begin that healing process, and it really just comes from a desire to let go of something, an energy, a frequency that we've held on to for so long that isn't serving us, and that small willingness to let it go. And recognize that you are a field of unconditional love and nothing less than that. And it's just all these other things that have told you differently. When you start to recognize that you are that energy because you're part of spirit, then, you know, miracles, you know, the greater good comes in, you know, divine miracles, and your divine blueprint, your divine right is there. And everybody, I know people say, well, Bo, you can see this, you can see that. When can I become as powerful as you, or this or that? It's not that. It's about It's about the consciousness. And everybody has, it's your divine birthright to tap into your psychic senses, to witness and look into your own bodies, to make decisions regarding, you know, processed foods or whole foods. You know, everybody has free agency, their free will, as extraordinary beings. But once the knowledge is available, it's available to everybody. All they have to do is ask and then be ready to listen. I can be contacted through writing _theta_wave at earthlink.net. Just leave me a little message.
Okay, I'm going to include those Earthlink, not Earthling. I think we had that problem.
Yeah.
problem with earthlink.net. Is that right, Bo?
That's right.
I'm going to include these. I'm going to include these in the description section of the video. And I wanted to thank both of our guests today, Bo and also Karen, who are really incredibly phenomenal women who have incredible knowledge, incredible wisdom, and here to share it with our viewers. I wanted to remind our viewers that you can visit us on our live active Facebook page, the GoldFish Report Facebook page. You can go there for up-to-date news stories on the topics that we talk about on the GoldFish Report, and also future topics. And you know, do expect some satire. I mean, there are geopolitical issues that we talk about, and we like to poke fun as much as you know, the New Yorker and the Wall Street Journal does. So, you know, although we're not mainstream media, but you know, there's awful lot of comedy to go around in the geopolitical world today, and we try to take a light side because it's also very serious matters as well. But we also have our blog at thegoldfishreport.wordpress.com, which also has a little bit more esoteric type articles and information that you can do. It's really for your research purposes. So you could visit us at wordpress.com. You could also go to the GoldFish Report on the Facebook page. And of course, you can visit us at www.thegoldfishreport.com. And folks, if you like the kind of programming that we bring you, please feel free to consider supporting the work that we do. There's a donate button on the site, and you can support the work that we do there, and find all of our lists of our previous archived GoldFish reports there for your viewing as well. And we want to thank our viewers for watching, and this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.